Good to be with you again. My name is Nick and I'm the rector of Rockland and Surlingham and some of the villages nearby, which means that I look after the churches and also help the people who live in our villages. You may have seen me at Harvest Festival, and now we're going to be talking about Easter and why Easter is such an important time for Christians. And I know that you've already seen Gary's video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I know I certainly did, and learned an awful lot about how things grow when winter turns to spring. I wonder if you remember the story that Gary told about Jesus' friend Mary and what made her sad and then what made her happy. Perhaps if you pause now and just talk to your partner or your teacher, just see what you can remember from the story of Easter that Gary told us. As you may remember, Mary was sad because she'd been with Jesus when he went to the cross. And there she stayed with him. And then, of course, after that, he was buried in the tomb. But then, in the garden, she met the person she thought was the gardener, but actually it was Jesus. Jesus had died, he'd been buried, and he rose again. Now, all of these things are the reason why Christians celebrate Easter, and also the reason why Christians follow Jesus today, because he taught many good things. He taught people to call God our Father, and he showed us the way back to God. But if it wasn't for Easter, we wouldn't be worshipping him now. So what I'd like to talk about is why Easter means so much to Christians, and how it's shaped not just the way that Christians believe and worship, but also how it shapes our world today. So the first thing I'd like to ask is, what day of the week does Easter always fall on? What day of the week is Easter? Yes, I think most of you got this. It's always on a Sunday. It's not the same date like Christmas. Christmas is always December the 25th, whether it's on a Monday, a Tuesday, or a Saturday, or whenever. It's always the same date. But Easter is always the same day of the week. It moves around between late March and late April. And this year it's early April, it's on April the 4th, but it's always a Sunday, because Jesus died on the cross on Good Friday, and Mary and the others found the empty tomb on the Sunday. And that has made Sunday a special day for Christians forever. And every Sunday of the year is a mini Easter. And if you want to know why you never have school on a Sunday, it's because of that. It's so that you and the teachers would have the chance to go to church if you wish to. It was the one day for hundreds of years in the week that everybody had a day off, a day to rest, a day to put their feet up, a day to go and worship together. And so Easter has made Sunday special for all of us. It's special because, like Mary, we went from being sad on Good Friday to feeling joyful on Easter Sunday. Because although we lived 2,000 years ago, because we can read these things in the Bible, those stories mean much to us. And we think about what the cross means to us in our life today and what Easter means for us. What is the sadness that we have? And what is the sadness that turns to joy in our lives? In that way, the story of Jesus at Easter, the story of Mary at Easter, becomes our story because we take it into our lives. And although it's been a bit of a strange year and Christians haven't been going to church on Sundays, they maybe been doing church at home, praying or watching videos or joining with others on Zoom, we hope that on Easter Sunday this year we will be back in church together. And the first thing we will do is carry in a special candle. This is our Easter candle from last year. I don't know if you can see it clearly, but it's got a cross on it and it's got last year's date, 2020. And the candle we're going to carry in this year will be a lot taller because we haven't burnt it yet. And also it will say 2021 to remind us that in this new year we still celebrate what happened 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem, that Jesus rose from the dead. And we're going to light our candle because Christians believe that Jesus is the light of the world and we follow his light, and so we light our candle. And then we light all the other candles in the church to remind us that Jesus coming back lightens our lives and gives us hope. Another thing we'll do in church is have a special meal that we call communion. And I've got a wafer here. It's one of the wafers that we're going to be using. Because you may have had the story of the Last Supper when Jesus shared the bread and the wine with his followers and said, "This is my body, do this in remembrance of me," to remember me. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's actually got a little cross on it to remind us of Jesus. And when we Christians share this communion together, we do 4 things. We take the bread, we ask God to bless it, we break it, and then we share it. And that reminds us of Jesus, and we feel close to him. Because when Jesus came to earth, when he was born as a baby, he was taken and blessed by God. He was then broken, but his life came back and has been shared to the world. So when we have communion, we think of Jesus still being with us today. And there are lots of other things to do with Easter that people do every year. And I'm just going to show you these. Okay, so I think you've probably seen one of those. Let's hold it up so you can see it better. There we are. I think you might know what that is. And then one of those. Then this fellow. So I've just held up an egg, a chick, and a rabbit. Now, we're going to pause for a moment and let's just talk about this with your partner or with your teacher. Do you know why we might have eggs and chicks and rabbits to remind us of Easter? Okay, well, let's start with the rabbit. Now, the issue should be this way up, really, because actually the story of the Easter rabbit is the story of the Easter hare. That's what the people who lived a long time ago thought. They thought that Jesus was a bit like a hare. Now, does anybody know the difference between a rabbit and a hare? Think for a moment. They look pretty similar, don't they? But a rabbit always hops and a hare runs. A rabbit lives in a cosy burrow that it digs under the ground, or it might live in a hutch if it's your pet rabbit. But a hare is always a wild animal, and a hare lives in the open ground. It doesn't have a home like a rabbit does. And Christians thought that Jesus was a bit like a hare because he didn't have anywhere to live. He just travelled around telling people about God. And hares, get very excited when it gets to the time of Easter, to March. They run around and they're happy and they look joyful and they're a sign of spring. And that reminds us of the joy of Easter and the joy that Jesus had and the joy that we can have. Then we've got the egg. Now the egg looks cold and hard, doesn't it? But out of it will come a fluffy chick. And the cold, hard egg reminds us a bit of the stone that was rolled in front of Jesus' tomb. And on the first day of the week, on Sunday, after Good Friday, Mary and the women came to the tomb and found that the stone had been rolled away and that the tomb was empty, that Jesus was no longer there because he was alive, he had risen. And so we share eggs at Easter, or you probably prefer this kind of egg, to remind us of the stone that was moved, the stone that was rolled away to give us hope. So all of these things remind us of what Easter can mean. I said about why Christians celebrate Easter, it gives us hope for the future. And because God loved us, we love God, and we want to worship him and we want to give thanks for Jesus. And we do that every Sunday, and sometimes the other days as well. But I wonder what Easter feels like for you this year, and what sort of things you would like to happen at Easter to make it special for you. Perhaps you'd like to talk about them now. But as we finish, may I wish you all a very happy and blessed Easter. Thank you.